talk about the politics of all of this with Nan Hayworth. Nan's a former member of Congress from New York. And Kurt Bardella is also with us. Kurt's a Democratic strategist, and he's a brand new NewsNation contributor. So congrats on that, Kurt. Great to see both of you. Okay, they're both going, so that should be someday. The president's going to be in Brownsville, Texas, the former president in the Eagle Pass area. Kurt, what would you say about this trip? We know that President Biden, well, we've been told, at least by the White House, he's not going to announce any executive order, anything like that. There's been speculation that he might on immigration ahead of the State of the Union and try to get ahead of the Republicans on this. No executive orders, but what should we expect with this trip to the border from your point of view?
Well, I think the president's going to continue to make the case for why the House of Representatives should take up the bipartisan Senate border bill that right now Speaker Johnson has said he won't even allow on the floor for a vote. I think that we know that Donald Trump is going to talk a lot about border, about the crisis, about this invasion happening and how it's Joe Biden's fault. I assume Trump will also invoke the recent tragedy, obviously, at that Georgia campus. But I think that the Biden's opportunity here is just talk about, hey, I have a solution. There's a bipartisan solution. And right now, for whatever reason, Republicans aren't even willing to give that a vote on the House of Representatives on the floor of the House. What more would you like me to do? I think that's a fair point to make. You
know, we had our buddy Geraldo on last hour. You were talking about the murdered University of Georgia, and his basic point was he hates when these types of things get politicized. He thinks this is getting politicized too much in terms of blaming the president, the immigration policies. But at the same time, he was tough on President Biden in another way. Let's watch. This is Geraldo.
I like the president. He's a good guy. I wish him the best. He has utterly failed to protect the southern border of the United States. Where the hell has he been? Why hasn't he seen what everybody else is seeing?
All right, Nan Hayworth, you first, then let's talk about this immigration policy in the election.
Number one, never mistake affability for somebody being an actual nice guy. A really nice guy, a caring president, would use his executive powers in the same way that President Trump did in order to secure our border as best this executive branch can do. And all of the protections that we seek are in fact specified, that the American people need are specified in current immigration and naturalization law. And that is what President Biden is actually obligated to follow and to execute. He's not doing that, Connell. So the fundamental problem isn't that Congress has failed. It is that President Biden has failed and that his executive branch has failed.
Okay, so couldn't we argue that it's both?
We can't fix it.
Couldn't we argue that it's both? In other words, that they could have passed something in the Congress, but Kurt, at the same time, it's fair to be critical of this president on immigration.
Listen, what we're seeing right now at the border, this is a bipartisanship failure. This is a failure of the Biden administration, the Trump administration, the Obama administration, the George W. Bush administration, and on and on. And we have been
but isn't it
this
particularly fair, though, to be critical of this administration in its early days, that the president should have done more? I know he's going to the border now and he's talking about immigration now, but Kurt, he should have done more early. Wouldn't that be a fair criticism somebody could level at his administration?
Well, last time I checked, the last guy said that he ran for president to solve the border crisis, that Mexico was going to build a wall that they were going to pay for, and that was his entire rationale for being president of the United States. So, well, no, let me finish. Let me finish. So, are you telling me then? I agree. President Biden and his administration, they were late to the game on this. They've been playing from behind. There was a lot of blame, rightfully so, being placed at this administration. But I just want to point out the previous guy made the promise that Mexico was going to pay for a border wall. Where is that wall, and where's their check?
I do have one other topic, but you take this first, Nan.
Well, you can harp on that point, but the fact of the matter is that the situation was dramatically better when Donald Trump was president, and it's dramatically worse now. And that's entirely on the Biden administration, Kurt. U.S. law has given the president the tools that he needs to keep this situation under far better control. He refuses to use them. That's all
then
Joe
why
Biden.
did Trump ask for those same authorities that Joe Biden's asking for now? Donald Trump asked for the same thing from Congress when he was president.
Donald Trump asked for funding for a border wall. And Congress...
He asked for the exact same expansion of executive authority. I just want to be very clear. They both have asked for it.
Congress did not provide for that funding.
Republicans
in the same
had the
way.
majority of Congress when Trump was president for 2 years.
No, I'm kind
Didn't
of.
matter. And you know that, Kurt. When you don't have 60 votes in the Senate, when you have a Democrat majority in the Senate, or you don't have 60 votes in the Senate, then the Senate can block things, and the Democrats in the Senate have done so.
I just want that logic to hold up when people criticize Biden.
You know, people are so. I think this illustrates in some ways. I mean, me as the referee at all of this. The referee was standing by. I swallowed my whistle there for a minute, but I think it does speak to the frustration on both sides of the aisle. Like if you speak to conservatives around the country or liberals, because they hear. I mean, not to pick on you guys, but they hear arguments like this, and they're like, well. Both are true, essentially. I mean, they probably should have passed that bill in the Congress. Republicans are pushing for years for all these measures within the bill. Why not pass it, other than for political purposes? And to Nan's point, yeah, the president probably should have done a lot more on immigration, maybe
Absolutely.
early and now, right? I mean, so that's why people get frustrated.
That's 100% right. I mean, I've been a Republican. I came into Capitol Hill life in 2006 from San Diego in a special election where the one key issue was immigration and the border. Here I am now, 15 plus years later, as a Democrat, and we're still having the same conversation. That's my point.
Yeah.
Both sides are to blame for why we are in this position right now. And it seems that neither side wants to give it an inch because they want to play politics with it.
And we'll see more on Thursday. They're both
I
going to
think
be.
it's because there are fundamental differences in philosophy about how these things should work, Kurt. I don't think some of it is probably political, but a lot of it is that philosophically there are differences.
Kurt's
and
going
there
to
are
get mad at me.
There are differences among the American people.
And the reason is
Senate
because
bill
I'm
was
going to make that the
co-authored by a
last word.
Republican.
Oh, I thought I was. I couldn't make it the last word. He is a true television professional. And thank you, Kurt and Nan. We appreciate you both. Boy, tough issue. We'll be right back. Much more to come.